Hey, all, welcome to this episode of A Good Problem to Have. I am your co host, Tyler Olson, and I'm joined by my West Coast, digging himself out of the snow, financial planner guru, Ronnie Colvin. It's your turn for the snow.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. Um, the reason we're joining both of us today is because Ronnie and I, you and I were talking about say the savings rate and its importance. I don't know, some weeks ago, and I remember my point, or at least I think the point I was trying to make at the time was like, yeah, the savings rate, it's important. We got to know what it is. And what did you say? Or I don't know if that's exactly what I said to you, but what did you say in response, or what's your thought when I say that?
Well, I don't know what I said at the time because we were just talking off the cuff anyway. But the essence of it is I don't care what it is. Not in the sense that I don't want it to be a particular number that you're fixated on. That a client says, "Oh, well, if I don't get 20%, I'm a total failure." No, you're not. Your average savings rate in any given year over a career is probably in the neighborhood of 20% in order to have a particular level of retirement. But if it fluctuates from year to year because life happens, don't get upset. It's not a big deal. If your savings rate in one year is 25%, great. But if your savings rate the next year is 15 because some life happened and you had to spend more money in that particular year, don't let it keep you up at night. You averaged 20% over those 2 years, so you're fine. It's just that we do have clients and people that talk about, oh, well, if you can't hit this number per year, you just suck. And no, your life is your life, and how things happen to you and what it costs you are your own. When we look at cash flows projections for a client, for example, we look at the years going forward, and there are some things we know to plan for. Vehicle replacement in year 3, an international vacation for a family of 4 in year 5, and stuff like that. And all those are demands on the assets in a particular year. And so it may mean that in a particular year, you spent more than you saved, but you had been saving it all along for that purpose. It's just that if you focus only on that year, it looks bad. But when you look at it across a span of years, it was just fine. You had planned for it. You had put it in that bucket. You had saved it for that purpose all this time. So it had inflated your savings rate for a few years. But when it came time to withdraw it, it makes the numbers look like that particular year was bad. Some things are purely coincidental. It's, gosh, it turned out that I needed to replace my car this year for whatever reason. The year before I was planning to. It just, one car just died and we had to buy a new one, or something like that. So your savings rate is going to fluctuate somewhat uncontrollably year to year. But if you can get an average over a career, you're fine. Does it need to be 20% or some magic number? You have to work with your financial advisor and your planner to know what that number should be. Because my idea of a comfortable retirement might require a particular savings rate per year, but your idea of a comfortable retirement might be totally different. So your number might only be 15% per year, while mine is 20 or 22. It varies by individual. So some rule of thumb magic number to put out there in the financial press, there really isn't one.
I surmise where you're coming from is the too broad stroke of you must achieve X% in order to be building a respectable retirement
Yeah,
savings
yeah,
amount.
yeah. I mean, it's very much like college degrees. C's get degrees just as well as A's do. So, your retirement is your retirement. If your target ideal for retirement only requires you to save 12% per year, okay. I mean, that's okay for you. Don't let the financial press beat you into thinking you got to do 20%. because you don't.
I appreciate
You know,
that.
the
Yeah.
social media and press of here are these rules of thumb numbers, like that 20%, has a way of impacting clients, everybody, psychologically to say, well, then that's what I should be doing. But the person who came up with that number might not have 3 kids to put through college and living on the West Coast where things are much more expensive, or living in New York, things are more expensive and higher tax. You just may not be able to save 20%. It may not be financially possible for you, and you shouldn't feel bad about that if that's the case.
Yeah. I remember a couple years ago, I I think I can't remember exactly what I said. It was a post on Twitter at the time. Um, and I said something about being able to buy a home, the relationship between being able to buy a home and how much you're saving for retirement. And if you're if buying a home means you can only save 10% of your income for retirement, is that wise? And it was meant to prompt a conversation, and it definitely did.
I'm
Um,
sure.
all the well, and like all the people from New York City and the Bay Area were like, "Well, what else are we supposed to do?" Like, and and I do understand. I get. I think the main thrust that I'm getting from you here is that savings rate demand, like the degree of helpfulness that a savings rate number provides demands context.
Yes. Yeah. And individual analysis. A generic number that the financial press publishes very well may not apply to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I think it's, I think that in the world of physicians, there are, a wide variety of circumstances,
Oh, yeah.
but I, I tend to see two versions of the conversation around savings rate. One is the, well, and this is all income related, like a given household, they've got eight, $900,000 in annual income.
Right.
And so they're putting 20% aside. Like,
Comfortably.
yeah, comfortably, no problem at all. In fact, I know one doctor I know in particular, he's he maxes out his retirement accounts at work, and then he takes 20% of his paycheck. So it's
The
net
take
of
home pay. Yeah.
the take home pay. He takes 20% of his paycheck and he throws it into the taxable account every month. And that's just like his rule. That's what he does.
Nice
And
problem to have.
it sure is. It is. And like, so in his mind and in other people that have a similar approach and somewhat similar circumstances as far as the difference between their cost of living and their income, that's just the way to be because they can. Um, but it's interesting because there have been some people who are in that circumstance, but then in a year in which something big happens, like the forever home purchase, where it's like, okay, now we found the justification, the real justification to drop $2 million on a house, not in cash, but buying a $2.5 million home, and the down payment and closing costs and all the changes associated with that, and then of course the increased pressure on your cash flow. All of a sudden, even that scenario pushes down the savings rate.
Exactly.
But then the other group of physicians are like the academic lower paying specialty docs who are making like 350, still very, very nice incomes for anyone who's wondering. I don't think that that's a low income, but,
No, no, no.
but by comparison to 900,000, it sure is. And their ability to just like just be like, snap their fingers, be like 20%, no problem. It's a very different feel.
Exactly. And in the example you were giving, that was 20% of his take-home paycheck after he had maximum funded his employer-based retirement plans, his 403B and 457B. So he's already putting away, 48, 49 grand a year in those plans, possibly more. And
Yeah.
now he's going to put away another 20% of whatever it was he was, taking home in his paycheck, which is great.
Yeah.
When you're making, 900 to $1 million a year as a neuro, okay, fine. But, if you're a pediatrician with a spouse and 2 kids living in the Bay Area, you don't have that kind of excess income just to throw 20% into the taxable account every month. It's just not there. The PEDS income is very, very different than neurosurgery. So, the rules can't be the same. The goals can't be the same. We can't say that your savings rate must be 20%. But even if it does, let's pretend for a moment that it needed to be. You need to count the stuff that when you're max funding your employer-based retirements into that 20%. That counts. It's not 20% on top of your retirement savings. It's 20% total. And so that's very different.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, good. I think I understand you better now. I'm glad that we can talk it up.
I'm glad somebody does.
And for any of you all listening, I suppose I hope that you'll take away the thought that your numbers need they deserve their own space and conversation and analysis. So make sure that you're giving that to yourself. That didn't make sense. Give that to yourself.
Give yourself that grace anyway.
Yeah.
To know that your situation is unique and your number doesn't have to be what you're reading in the financial porn industry.
Yeah. There's a lot of there's a lot of nuance, and there's a lot of right ways to go about these decisions. So yeah, it's good to be optimistic. I think it's easy to lose that optimism in the, if we allow the the general broad brush rules to try to tell us that we're failing.
Yeah, the peer pressure of it making you feel like a failure is just wrong.
Yeah. Now keep your chin up, and make sure you plan it out, and then you'll come to the numbers that make sense for you.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks, Ronnie.
Sure thing.
We'll see you next time.